Hey there, thanks for tuning into Duckbricks. I'm Chris, and in hand I have the brand new LEGO House exclusive set, a tribute to LEGO Fabuland, one of the most iconic and classic themes from the early days of LEGO. I even got a chance to visit LEGO headquarters back in September of last year, where we got an exclusive interview with the designers of the set, talking about the design process and how they actually brought this to life, so definitely stay tuned because I'll be including some of those tidbits into this review as well, plus some comparisons with the original Fabuland figures. Let's jump in right now. Alright, so here is the exclusive LEGO House Fabuland Tribute. It will be available on March 1st, 2025 in just a few days, and will retail for 649 Danish kroner, which is around 91 US dollars. It contains 1,026 pieces and includes 4 brick-built characters going back to the early days of LEGO Fabuland from the 1980s. Edward Elephant, Joe Crow, Dr. Lucy Lamb, and Clive Crocodile. It also includes a brick-built Fabuland tree, which is a little different from the exact geometry of the original piece, but gets the point across aesthetically in terms of the idea behind the piece itself, and is featuring a grand return to Fabuland after so many years of being discontinued. Now, there basically was no way that LEGO would have made one-off new molds for a set like this, especially a LEGO house set, so they had to do a brick-built animal form, and I actually think this works really well for Fabuland. Personally, I'd love to see them do something like this for Bionicle or something like that in the future, although I'm sure that making it exclusive to one place in the world and brick building it will cause quite a stir of controversy, and that's probably why in this set made to celebrate original LEGO storytelling, they went with Fabuland, which to be fair is basically the very first official story-based LEGO theme. The very first LEGO TV show was not Ninjago, nor was it Galador, it was actually Edward and Friends, Edward Elephant of course pictured here, and that was the first direct narrative that LEGO provided for a product line. Sure, it was very simple for the time, but every single one of the instruction manuals told a little bit of a story, and they tried to factor that into the actual manuals here, where you have a bit of a comic showcasing the characters going on a trip to the LEGO house and celebrating with the Fabuland band. You've got bios for each of the characters provided in the set, and of course, the way that you can build this is that it's utilizing the build together theming, so you can actually assemble a team of 4, 5, or even 6 people and have everybody build a piece of this together, which is really cute. Of course, every single animal is basically an identical build with just some color swaps for the torso and the legs, which makes sense because they're all supposed to be the exact same, but the heads themselves are quite radically different, and I actually really do want to emphasize the amount of design effort that went into making all the heads here, which I personally got to appreciate in much greater detail after I attended a nearly 1 hour long design seminar about how this set was designed by the 2 designers that worked on it over at the LEGO house in Billund, Denmark back in September. I'll have a lot more thoughts to say about the value as well as what you get out of the set, as well as my thoughts on it being exclusive to the LEGO house near the end of the video, but for now let's take a deep dive into each of the characters, starting off in the order in which they're presented in the set with Edward Elephant. Now every single one of these characters brings something a little bit new to the table, and of course all of their accessories are mimicking classic Fabuland accessories, albeit this time fully brick-built, instead of the one-off molds that we received back in the Fabuland line. It's actually perfect timing that, as at the time of recording this video, I literally just finished putting together my Fabuland minifig display. As you can see, I've got some gaps in the collection, I'm still trying to collect them all, but I figured it was pretty perfect to finish that display just in time to showcase all the characters in this set. That's a look at their original counterparts, and now going back to the actual figures. They have basically the same amount of articulation as the original figures. You can bend the legs back and forth, and the way the legs are designed is actually really clever, especially the way that they use click hinges and click joints to allow you to really pose them up without risk of them falling over. Edward Elephant actually has posable ears as well, which is very cute, and of course you can move the arms up and down the same way you could actually articulate the original figures. It's a really clever design, featuring studs in basically all directions here, and I really gained a much bigger appreciation for the design process after seeing just how hard it was to come up with something that was playable, sturdy, but also exactly mimicked the original figures. That was no hard feat, but they managed to pull it off. The arms are attached really securely by a combination of a clip attached to a bar, as well as a bar inserted into a 1x2 attachment piece, so that is really great, and I guess guess technically you can move the trunk on Edward Elephant as well, although it really is just supposed to say fixed in one angle. Edward Elephant utilizes a number of snot techniques to really achieve the rounded look and feel of the face, utilizing some of those Speed Champion's quarter headlight elements introduced first in the Aston Martin James Bond set, and altogether I feel like it really captures the shape of the original piece very well. I've heard a lot of complaints of folks online after publishing my initial reveal video of the set that these look very uncanny, and they almost have a Five Nights at Freddy's look to them, which I honestly didn't see when I first built it, but now that people have commented it, I guess I can kind of see it. I don't know, I feel like they very much do fall into the cute versus creepy territory, and they're more cute on the creepy spectrum, but I can see why some people might be a little freaked out by those very large open eyes. Taking a look at Clive Crocodile here, he is utilizing some lime click joint pieces, some of which are actually recolored for this set to my knowledge, which is really nice to get, and he also has a very fun accessory of the accordion, which also is built out of remarkably advanced building techniques. You'd be surprised by just how much effort went into depicting this accordion utilizing the pieces available, and I think it's really well done. It's just a very slight difference in the heights of the way some of those bar elements go to really just make the accordion work out very well and have that curve to it, which is really cool. And of course, Clive himself is just using the standard torso and legs build that we've seen on the other figures, but it's done really well. The headpiece itself is arguably the most simple out of all of them. It's still very detailed, but it is just mostly studs up, with just a tiny amount of studs on the side detail on the side of the jaw there, but honestly, I feel like they were able to capture the proportions of the original piece really nicely here too, so there was no need to overcomplicate it. But speaking of complicated builds, I think it's time we take a look at Joe Crow. And Joe Crow here is probably the most complex build of the set, mostly because of the way the head is done. It is surprisingly complex in the way it's built, and you'd be surprised putting it together. Joe has a pretty simple neck-mounted accessory of a drum here, where technically he can't actually beat it himself, you can't actually articulate the hands, but that is actually accurate to the original figures, so I'm certainly not complaining. The drum itself literally just attaches onto the front of the torso with studs. There is nothing fancier going on there, and all of the fancy building techniques were pretty much saved for the head. They spent a lot of time talking about this in the designer interview, and if you want to watch that interview, you can check out my previous reveal video posted just a few days ago, talking about how difficult it was to get the circumference of the hat just right, and trying to make the circumference match the original piece, which is really impressive, the amount of iterations they tried to make this undergo to actually pull off the shaping for the head. The end result is a combination of different studs on the side elements mounted using different building techniques to have a curved back of the head, but still have the red cap completely cover it, and of course you do have the yellow beak sticking out, which is really nicely brick built up using a variety of curved slope elements. But now, we can take a look at the final character, who is Dr. Lucy Lamb. The way Lucy's head is built honestly reminds me a lot of building a Brickhead's, and that's because it uses some of these similar building techniques to attach studs on all sides. I want to spend some time taking a look at our instrument first. This is a really well done brick-built instrument, and if you look at the original prototype design of this piece, they obviously had a much more complex build, but it definitely was not something that was very solid. It fell apart all the time, and this is a pretty good compromise to simplify the design a little bit, but make it very stable and easy to play with, and I'm very impressed by how they pulled this off. The set was finished by Marcus Rohlbuehler of Ninjago City fame, of course, so I'm not very surprised that it's using some very cool building techniques, but it's always really impressive to have a very seasoned LEGO designer come in and just blow you away with building techniques that may seem simple on the outset, but are actually remarkably and surprisingly complex as you put them together. I really like the way that the lamb head is done here. You can have the illusion of layers of fur here with different types of curved pieces kind of mixed in with each other. There's a bunch of studs coming out on all different sides to really just make everything pop and feel woolly, and I like how the ears are done as well. The fact that you can adjust them is just the icing on the top. Reattaching the instrument here, and you can see just how well the build it actually all comes together. Technically, it's a little bit difficult for Lucy Lamb to reach the mouthpiece on the instrument, which I guess is kind of supposed to be near the top there, but you can use your imagination, and again, this is mimicking the actual design of the original characters, so in that sense, it's actually pretty accurate. But now let's take a look at the set as a whole. Of course, the final element there is the tree, and I don't really have that much else to say about the tree. I feel like it captures the spirit of the original element, but definitely doesn't capture the exact proportions, and they did explain why. Trying to capture the exact proportions of that original piece and making it smooth is nearly impossible to build in a sturdy format, and this is the best compromise they were able to do. Altogether, I feel like this is a really nice and pleasing tribute to Fabuland, but honestly, I feel like I personally would have loved to see maybe just some sort of background to the build. I guess the tree is there, but as it is right now, it does feel a little bit plain. You just have a flat green base using studs on the side, and then you have the 4 characters and a tree as kind of a 5th character just kind of standing there. Honestly, for something like a LEGO Fabuland tribute done in modern form, I am a little mixed. I feel like the brick-built animals are really good, and it really is a nice celebration of the theme, but personally, I would have loved to see something like the LEGO house built in the Fabuland style. I think that would have been super cool. Of course, that definitely would have necessitated new minifigures, and as such, new molds for the heads, almost certainly. Maybe they could get away with utilizing the Animal Crossing molds, but those are probably license locked, so I'm guessing that they would have had to make new pieces, so since they couldn't make new pieces, well, the only way you can do Fabuland there is to just make them brick built, and that's what they did. Altogether, I think given the constraints on the design and what they actually wanted this set to be, it makes sense. It definitely does feel like a LEGO Fabuland tribute, where you're really celebrating the characters themselves, and less so the buildings or the vehicles. Of course, they did try to brick build a motorcycle, which I think would have been really cool to include in the set, but they chose to keep the focus on the Fabuland band. Now, talking about the value of the set, 649 DKK is again $91.16, and for over 1,000 pieces, that's actually remarkably good value, especially for a LEGO house set. LEGO in Denmark is somewhat ironically the most expensive place, or at least one of the most expensive places to buy LEGO where there are official LEGO retailers. For whatever reason, they just decide to price their sets in Denmark way higher, so honestly, I'm really happy that this was only $91. That being said, I do say only $91 when we're looking at what is essentially a green plate with 4 characters on it. And I do feel like a lot of those bricks are devoured by techniques that do look really nice and make this honestly feel like more of like an AFOL oriented set as opposed to an actual official LEGO set, stuff like these studs on the side base or the detail on the animals, but I definitely do feel that a lot of those bricks maybe could have been taken away and this could have been a lot cheaper. A lot of those pieces also do go into the black base, which is nice how it's uniform with the rest of the LEGO house sets, but so many pieces go into just 2x2 black tiles that you lay down and you basically forget about for the rest of the build. So I feel like they could have made maybe a more focused, a more truncated version of this set that came in at closer to $60 or $70, or use the $91 budget to maybe add in another character, or have even just a brick-built facade behind them, something to be a little more than just 4 characters standing on a green platform. That being said, it is really nicely done. I love the way the characters are built. It is truly remarkable in terms of how they were able to just take those original LEGO Fabuland head molds and translate them very nicely to this larger scale. And that then brings me to the fact that I really wish that this set was available in more places than just the LEGO house in Denmark. I feel like so many people around the world are big fans of Fabuland, and it's kind of a shame that you have to physically go in person to be able to get this. Now, in the past, they've done some special promotions where you had the ability, if you lived in the UK, to purchase some items from the LEGO house online, but I'm pretty sure that was only because of COVID and they were trying to get rid of excess stock, and I doubt that's going to happen again. So unless they actually make this available worldwide, you're going to have to go to the LEGO house in Billund, Denmark to get it. So that is a bit of a shame, but it is a beautiful exclusive. It's one of the more ubiquitous ones. I feel like some of the previous ones are a little hit or miss in terms of their commercial ability as well as their viability as standard LEGO sets outside of the LEGO house, but this is definitely a winner in my book. So let me know if you're going to be picking it up whenever you do visit the LEGO house. I will probably be visiting at some point this year, I would have to imagine, so I'm sure I'm going to see this on store shelves at some point, and once again, thank you to LEGO for sending me this set for review. That's all for this video, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.